natural Women's Council, not to be confused with the government-funded National Identify as a Women Council, which receive €1 million a year from our public funds. And as I stand on the street today, I was on this street 2 years ago in this very spot, lobbying against the erasure of women from Article 10, 11, and 12 of the Maternity Protection Act. Luckily, that was reversed, but here we are again, 2 years later. They're relentless. They're trying to erase woman, mother, and home from the Constitution again. And if you look up at the polls all around you, see all those yes signs, vote yes, vote yes. Every political party, NGO is pushing a yes, yes vote. They've been producing lots of misinformation that was even called out by the Electoral Commission. If you follow Michael McDowell on Twitter, he's been calling out the misinformation being pushed with this campaign. Everywhere around the city, there's signs saying yes, yes, that you all paid for. Now, never in my life, and I'm hitting a milestone birthday this year, never in my life have I seen the government in any country use our public funds so relentlessly to push a campaign. Whatever happened to being non-biased and letting us make our own informed decision with the vote, right? From what comes in the post to tell us about it. So I stand here today, and I think it's fair to say this country is on the wrong track. I stand here today to talk about the referendum, but it goes much deeper than that. We need to ask, can we trust the people in power? I ask you to reflect over the last several years in this country. I've been here 21 years myself. Think about the last 4 years. Think about our lives. Think about the lives of our children. Think about freedom, truth, and democracy. And as you reflect on the current state of the affairs, I'm sure at least one of you listening have at least one concern about what is happening in this beautiful country that we call home. While you're reminiscing, I'm going to share a few that have impacted myself and my own children. For example, because of personal health choices that I made, my children and I were placed into an apartheid regime that I never thought I would see in this country. The country is still reeling from the after effects of irresponsible and arrogant decisions made by this Irish government. Another issue affecting our society is our reckless, open border policy. I am not anti-immigrant. I am an immigrant. I came to this country to make a life while I made a living. I have 2 children who were born here. But I don't believe that we should be letting in thousands and thousands of unvetted, single men being placed in villages and towns all over this country while our tourism industry dies a sudden death. But we cannot ask those questions without being labeled as a racist, fascist, bigot, and of course, the far right that our government likes to use for anybody questioning their narrative. What about the indoctrination and sexualization of children through our publicly funded libraries and schools? The Natural Women's Council, Irish Education Alliance, Parents' Rights Alliance, and Lawyers for Justice Ireland have been campaigning relentlessly against the sexualization of our innocent children for the last year and a half. We do not believe children should have access to grubby sex manuals aimed at fetishizing children, nor do we believe that our children should be taught they can be a boy, girl, neither, or both, and that's written in the school material if you don't believe me. Regardless of the sex they were assigned at birth, that's in the school material. I'm not sure what biology lesson that Norma Foley and Roderick O'Gorman took, but sex is not assigned at birth. Sex is determined in the womb at conception. So therefore, they want to erase the woman and the mother, erase biological sex that's determined in the womb. I'm unsure why they want to do this, but you can make your own assumptions. But those of us who have spoken up against this are labeled by the media and the government as transphobic, spreading hate, and of course, those 2 favorite words, the far right. If I had €1 for every label I had over the last few years, I'd have enough euros to print off 100,000 more leaflets on this referendum to spread truth. But the labels are empty and people are waking up to the government tyranny and the woke mind virus that is permeating every aspect of society, even our innocent children and now our constitution. So what is happening in Ireland? Who is behind the decisions the government is making? Did people up and down the country demand this? Did all of you agree to spend 20 million euros on a ridiculous referendum to erase woman and mother when we have 4,000 homeless children in this country? Did you agree to that? I didn't. 20 million euros. What could that do for those hospital waiting lists, all those delayed diagnoses? I'm hearing more and more people that are now at stage 3 and 4 cancer because they never got diagnosed early. What an absolute waste of public funds the government is spending on this referendum. Do you remember those politicians talking about this when they knocked on your door, asking for your vote? Is this the future we want for our children and our grandchildren? So exactly where the heck is this coming from? I'm about to tell you. I think it's fair to say that most concerns from your reflection are coming from the United Nations. Varadkar was in New York at the United Nations General Assembly just in September gone. And guess who was selected out of 193 countries to co-chair this meeting, which was a checkpoint meeting on the implementation of Agenda 2030. Who was co-chair? What country? Ireland, the good old boys on the map, the good boy in class. Varadkar even tweeted a photo of himself with a WEF Sustainable Development Goal rainbow wheel, boasting about Agenda 2030. This is being pushed by the United Nations. Make no mistake that the people of Ireland do not want this. Yet our politicians are using our public funds to push it. Sticky page, here we go, one second. There we go. So I ask again, when it comes to your vote on the 8th of March, do you trust the people in power? Do you think they're looking after the interests of the Irish people, or are they looking after their big boys in the United Nations, orchestrating or acting for their big next job? The United Nations, you ask, aren't they wonderful? Well, the United Nations as we know it is not the United Nations today. On June 13th of 2019, the United Nations handed over its reins of control to the Davos World Economic Forum, and they signed what's called a Strategic Framework Agreement. Who is the WEF, you may ask? The WEF represents 1,000 of the world's top corporations. They don't deal in millions, they deal in billions and trillions. It's being driven by corporate interests, what's happening in this country, not the interests of the people of Ireland. If we look at Ireland, we are headquarters for many of these top corporations. Look around Ireland, look at all the big pharma companies we have, big tech and big finance, and the government are in the hands, in their pockets. We even have a company in Ireland called AbbVie. Does anyone know who AbbVie is? It's a company that makes $58 billion annually globally. And guess whose husband is a director at AbbVie who make puberty blockers to sterilize children? Guess whose husband works at AbbVie? Guess who wants to silence us speaking about this transgenderism agenda? That's our Minister of Justice, Helen McEntee. Perhaps due to this conflict of interest, perhaps due that Miss McEntee's husband is profiting from pumping children full of puberty blockers and castrating and sterilizing them, perhaps that's why she wants women like me silenced. She's making money off these puberty blockers. Isn't that interesting? But being a playground for these corporations does come with a price, doesn't it? Ireland truly is in the belly of the beast. The United Nations has undergone a soft coup, taking over Ireland's democracy. These policies are being pushed from the top down, certainly not from the bottom up. But it's time that people started asking their politicians about this. The Irish government is trying to sell us out to the globalists who have none of our interests at heart. Voting no on this referendum will send a very strong message to this Irish government that we oppose many of their policies. There is optimism, there is hope. The World Economic Forum and United Nations project is failing because too many of us are wise to it and more are waking up every single day. This is a good segue, now that you've heard the background, wondering where this came from and why the people behind us in power aren't listening to us. Now that you know they're reporting to the globalists and they've sold this beautiful country out, now is a great segue to talk about this 20 million euro referendum. On Friday, March 8th, you're going to be asked to vote in 2 referendums on changing the current text of Article 41 of Bunrak the Heron. This unnecessary referendum is costing us 20 million. Again, I ask, how many of our 4,000 homeless children or a hospital waiting list could benefit from this 20 million? They want to rush this through on International Women's Day. What a gimmick, considering they want to erase woman and mother. International Women's Day. Wow. So what is the background? Did you and I ask for it? No, this was based on a citizens' assembly. So you may ask yourself, what is a citizens' assembly? Well, I wasn't certainly invited to join that, and I'm sure many of you weren't either. This is pushed by the government. The Citizens Assembly is not a non-biased group. You can look it up for yourself. There's 2 bills you're going to be asked to vote on. One bill proposes to change the constitutional provisions relating to families by extending the concept to other durable relationships. As Dr. Vincent Carroll said, getting a Christmas card possibly could mean a durable relationship, while leaving the meaning of that phrase for the courts to decide in the future. This is the 39th Amendment, the Family Bill. Linda from the Irish Education Alliance will be talking in detail in a moment about Amendment 39, the Family Bill. The other bill proposes to delete the state's constitutional obligation to endeavor to support mothers like myself who wish to provide care to their children in their homes rather than be forced by economic necessity to work outside the home. This is the 40th Amendment, the Care Bill. The government is pushing, and media and the NGOs are relentlessly pushing a yes vote on this by saying that women like myself are strapped to the kitchen sink and forced to be at home. Didn't we have 2 women presidents in Ireland? I worked as a senior manager in corporate life for 20 years. I was never strapped to any sink. I can do what I want. That's my choice as a woman, and the current Constitution gives me the choice and the financial and social protections. I've been a full-time stay-at-home mom with my 2 children who are 5 and 8 since the day they came out of my womb. That is my choice. But when they're a little bit older, it will be my choice to go and work again. So why would we erase that Article 41, giving mothers like me the choice to raise my children in the home rather than farm them out to a creche to be raised by someone who doesn't love them? So vote no to Amendment 40 so as to uphold, safeguard, and protect the fundamental role of the mother in caring for our children at home. We cannot trust the state to protect the inalienable rights of the family. If this very definition is undermined by reference to durable relationships, nor can we trust that the positive obligations the state has to protect and safeguard the role of the mother as caregiver to her children at home will be upheld if they delete 3 words from the Constitution. The 3 words they want to delete are home, mother, and woman from Bunrak to Heron. It also proposes to insert a vague new article about family care in the Fundamental Rights chapter of the Constitution, but without conferring any new rights at all on carers or people in need of care. We are strongly against the proposed amendments to our Constitution, as we hold the opinion that this is a further attack on the biological sex-based rights of women. It will also enshrine gender identity ideology within our Constitution. As a mother to a young daughter, she needs these biological sex-based rights. My daughter's a swimmer and a runner. She's only 8. I certainly don't want my daughter to be competing in athletics against someone who says, a man identifying as a woman. What hope would my daughter have for her dreams to be an athlete? Nor do I want my daughter, when she's old enough to go to a shopping center or the loo on her own, to have a man identifying as a woman follow her into that toilet or changing room. Vote no to protect the biological sex-based rights that women and girls in Ireland have under the current constitution. We are strongly against the deletion of the biological woman and the term mother from the Constitution, considering the hard-won equality and rights secured for them over many years. Inserting a gender-neutral term in the Constitution could have unforeseen effects on policy and entitlements that are already enshrined in Irish law. Article 41 currently reads, in particular, 41.2.1, in particular, the state recognizes that by her life within the home, woman gives the state a support without which the common good cannot be achieved. Article 41.2.2 states, the state shall therefore endeavor to ensure that mothers shall not be obliged by economic necessity to engage in labor to the neglect of their duties in the home. Now notice the word is in there, should not be forced, but it gives us that choice. We are not forced to stay home, we are not forced to work. The current Constitution gives us that choice. They want to delete the two articles I just read and replace it with what's called 42B. Listen to how generic this is. The state recognizes that the provision of care by members of a family to one another by reason of the bonds that exist among them gives to society a support which without the common good cannot be achieved and shall strive to support such provision. You will notice that woman, mother, and home are not in their new proposal. You must also understand they put in the word shall. Do you trust the people in power if they just simply say we shall strive? No. The Citizens' Assembly recommended that Article 41.2 be deleted and replaced with language that was not gender specific and obliged the state to take reasonable measures to support care within the home and in the wider community. This is in effect an attempt to cancel the important role of women as caregivers and mothers by replacing women and mothers with a gender-neutral language. It is an attempt to cancel the fundamental concept in Irish society of the importance of women's biological sex-based rights. It will provide transgender males with the same biological sex-based rights as women. One has to question why the drive for the literal cancellation of woman and mother. What is their intention by erasing woman and mother, considering that the equality legislation related to maternity rights and the fact that the Constitution, Article 40.1, already states that all citizens shall be held equal before the law? You may be following Michael McDowell. He's been a beacon of light during the getting the facts out in this referendum, and he quoted, "The public interest requires keeping the public in the dark." Minister for Children, Roderick O'Gorman's department, has now decided that it would not be in the public interest to publish the meeting minutes of the government's interdepartmental group, which considered the proposed amendments to the Constitution over the last year. 64 pages of minutes, and Minister Roderick O'Gorman does not believe that you and I, as members of the public voting, should have access to the details of those meetings. Why is that, and what are they trying to hide? The withheld records include minutes from those 16 meetings of the cross-departmental group, and they do include correspondence with an NGO named Trior, whoever those are. So let's think about, if we erase these articles, let's talk about what it means in real life for all of us. For example, inheritance tax. If someone dies today without drafting a will, the state currently passes it on to the spouse and the children. If death in the absence of children or blood relations, what happens if those rights are extended to durable relationship? Think of how much time, money, and energy is going to be tangled up in the court system trying to figure that one out. But they don't want us to know what durable relationship means before we cast our vote. I'm not going to buy anything I don't know about, so I'm going to vote no, no, because we are being hidden the details of this referendum. I do believe, though, that goodness will prevail over evil, and human spirit is always going to win over this agenda. So what is the call to action? The call to action is to talk to everyone you know about this referendum, because it's up to us as citizens of Ireland to counteract the misinformation being spread by the government, the media, and the heavily publicly funded NGOs that put up all these yes signs that surround us now. We must never stop talking and make those small talks big. The concerns that all of you have are probably shared by many, but people are just too afraid to have those conversations. Bring those chats into daily life. I open them up in the barbershop, post office, food shops, playgrounds, anywhere at all. Have you heard about the referendum where they want to erase woman and mother? How crazy is that? And it opens up the conversation. We have 60,000 leaflets so far printed. We brought many of them behind us today. We're going to take the show on the road down Grafton Street in the GPO shortly to pass these leaflets out. On March 8th, you, the people of Ireland, will have an opportunity to have your voices heard in the privacy of the ballot box. Say no to a government who doesn't listen. Say no to an Ireland in which we feel alienated. Say no to open borders. Say no to radical gender ideology. Say no to our housing crisis. Say no to an Ireland that our children can't afford. Vote no to removing mothers from the Constitution. Vote no to removing women from the Constitution. Let your vote of no, no be the catalyst for growth and change. Linda's going to talk about the other article, and then we'll take our show on the road throughout the city. So Linda Kennedy, I think I did read my whole speech from last night. Lots of information, come on. I didn't know